Good afternoon, fellow patriots. This is Matt Shea, and welcome to Patriot Radio, broadcasting live from deep inside the heart of the future Liberty State. Sponsored once again by On Fire Ministries, in the legacy of Dr. Stan Monteith, bringing you the story behind the story and the news behind the news, where it's not about right or left, it's about right and wrong. It's about our hope not being in man, but in Jesus Christ. About not ending in prayer, but moving to action. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Father, deliver us from the evil one.
Welcome to Patriot Radio.
Good afternoon, fellow patriots. This is Matt Shea, and welcome to Patriot Radio. Today, a massive buildup continues in the Middle East, and China launches a huge exercise around Taiwan. Could this be the blockade that everybody has been warning about? Also today on Patriot Radio, we have Mark Sutherland to tell us about an upcoming trip to Israel, what he expects, and what we can all expect for the Middle East here in the next 30 days. Here at Patriot Radio, we want to give you the information before everyone else so you and your family can be prepared. The times that are ahead and the times that are already upon us, but no fear. We were made for this. But make sure you follow us on Telegram, patriotradio.us/Telegram, for real-time intelligence analysis and breaking news. And it looks like there may be an attack on Iran in the offing. You're going to want to know before everybody else, because that could have implications for everyone back here in the United States. Also, during this tumultuous time, prayer is important. And you may not have a fellowship you go to, or maybe you do, but you want prayer? We want to pray with you. patriotradio.us/prayer. And I want to make sure that everybody understands we actually get these things. We actually pray with you through whatever you're going through. Or maybe you want to have some strategic prayer and pray strategically for the country and for the world. We want to do that with you as well. Also, here at Patriot Radio, it's important that we understand the Patriot economy. Now, we've been working with Patriot TV and other sponsors to create a Patriot economy. Now, there's a Patriot Bank, there's a Patriot Mobile Service. Well, you also have Patriots Buying American. Now, this is everything in between: beef, household cleaning supplies, and everything else. So why do we want a Patriot economy? Because I think for too long, many of us have felt that our money was going and being used against us, kind of like USAID, but with our own money in the consumer realm. Why would we want to do that? I've told, I think, audience after audience for 15 years now that a Patriot economy is the way to go. And you want to be able to trust those that you're buying from, but also make sure that your money is going to expand the kingdom. And so this Patriots Buying American is the kind of next piece in the puzzle, the Patriot economy that we've been talking about, and then we've all been really wanting, I think, for the last, decade. Now it's a reality. That brings us now to your wisdom from the Word. And we're going to read 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14, but we're going to read a little bit more than that for some context, and I hope an encouragement to you today. And my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and heal their land. Then it continues. Now my eyes will be open and my ears attentive to the prayer offered in this place. That the temple of the Holy Spirit is now us. Listen to the promise that comes after that. For now I have chosen and consecrated this house. That's what God has done. For now I have chosen and consecrated this house, so my name may be there forever, and my eyes and my heart will be there always. In other words, when God is in us and we are in God, we abide in him and he abides in us. There is a promise there that his eyes, his very heart, will be inside of us. In other words, we'll be able to see as he sees. We'll be able to sense as he senses. When it says he gives us a new heart, it means it's a new heart for people. But our eyes are open to see people as he sees them, not as the big mess, sometimes a hot mess, standing in front of us. And I hope today that encourages you, because everything that we need for this time ahead is already inside of us. Revival is inside of us. Reformation is inside of us. And the perseverance, strength, and courage we're going to need here in the next 5 years is inside of us. In Jesus' name, amen. That brings us now to your daily intelligence briefing, coming to us from the Globalist Front.
The future is built by us. We have the means to make progress on the global agenda.
As we've been highlighting, in the next year, you are going to see an absolute massive change in your way of life, and it has to do with robots. The race is on to capture the multi-trillion-dollar market for humanoid robots, general-purpose robots that can be instantly repurposed for any task by AI, personal robots that can cook meals for you, clean your house, do your laundry, tutor your kids, drive your car, cut your grass, take care of your elderly parents, repair your plumbing, even do your bills. All of that in the next 365 days, as not just Elon Musk, but many other companies making robots affordable so that every household may have 1, 2, even 3. It's going to change life forever. And by the way, if they can be centrally controlled, they're in your house, that has significant implications. And are we getting ahead of this? Of course not, especially in the legislature. We need to be looking that far out. We need to be looking near term as well. What does it mean for AI to start doing everyday tasks? And could it be that, like our last guest said, Chad Stewart, really are missing something, that humans will always be needed, and this is kind of a farce that humans would be replaced? What could it mean for accountants and attorneys? What could it mean for landscaping companies? What could it mean for Uber, Lyft, taxis? Well, self-driving cars then take over in that area. What could it mean for Christians? I think that as we ponder these things, we also understand that a lot of these things are just tools that can be used for good or evil, and that there is no safety for an honest man except by believing all possible evil of evil men. It was Edmund Burke, very rarely quoted. But the point is this, that whatever checks we need to put in place, we need to be talking about it now. And that we may be on the cusp of not just an AI revolution, but a robot revolution. That brings us now to the China front. China's dictator warns Taiwan independence means war as he launches drills around the island. Well, it's not just any drills. Army, Navy, Air Force, and rocket units have been deployed. The People's Liberation Army Eastern Theater Command had a statement that they have organized their Army, Navy, Air Force, Rocket Force, and other forces to organize ships and aircraft to approach the Taiwan island from multiple directions around the island, focusing on exercises in sea and air combat readiness patrol, seizing comprehensive control. You hear what I just said? Seizing comprehensive control. Sea and land strikes and blocking key areas and roads to test the actual combat capabilities of the theater's troops in joint operations. This is a serious warning and powerful containment of the Taiwan independent separatist forces and is legitimate and necessary action to defend national sovereignty and maintain national unity. Taiwan is a separate country, always has been since Chiang Kai-shek. So the Chinese being very clear about their ambitions. And in addition to that, Taiwan says it's detected 19 Chinese warships, the Shandong aircraft carrier group, and a massive increase in flights and patrols around the island. Just in March, these have increased dramatically. You can see the drills encircling Taiwan. If we can bring up that next map. This is just a kind of a visual graphic of all of the activity reported. And remember, we have been talking about here that the best time to blockade and attempt to invade Taiwan would be in the March-April timeframe. We're right smack in the middle of that, and in the fall. So if this is a final exercise to certify combat troops for that invasion, or as I believe that certification exercise happened last year, this could be the beginning of a blockade. Taiwan has unveiled its first domestically made sea drone, and the military is now looking to use it for operations in the Taiwanese Strait. So here's the important piece of this. That drone production is ramping up massively, but the Taiwanese have faced a problem, and this is a holdover from the Biden administration. In fact, I had a high-level contact personally tell me that the Biden administration stopped shipments of small arms to Taiwan, and these things have been delayed, which brings us to the next article, that Taiwan's biggest limitation in defense isn't spending, it's late deliveries from U.S. defense companies. Now, Trump has sought to remedy that, be a hedge against China, but the fact of the matter is, and the reality on the ground is that Taiwan is lagging behind right now. Also, China continues to ramp up its energy dominance. This project, highlighted by Mike Benz, it's the new mega dam that would redraw the entire river flow of Southeast Asia. Costs $137 billion, which is just 20% of a single year of the Pentagon budget. So very interesting that the the Chinese understand energy independence, and now the United States is becoming energy independent again with Trump administration policies. So not only is there an arms race, there's an energy race now between the U.S. and China. Also, South Korea's constitutional court will rule on the validity of President Yoon Suk Yeol's impeachment Friday. The ruling is set to be delivered and will be televised. We're going to follow this on Patriot Radio, and you'll see it on the real-time intelligence analysis and breaking news feed. Please be a part of that. 6 of the court's 8 judges must agree that President Yoon's impeachment was valid in order to formally remove him. This has huge implications because the communist forces in South Korea are seeking to take over that country. By the way, odd timing, isn't it? Could it be right before invasion of Taiwan? That brings us now to the Middle East front. Israel has announced it is removing all tariffs on goods imported from the USA. And so what's going to happen? The United States is not going to have tariffs on Israel. Somebody is getting the message. Also, according to I-24 News, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Kuwait have secretly told Tehran. Now remember, the U.S. has a huge air base in Qatar, have told Tehran that they will not allow the United States to use their air bases to launch or support military strikes against targets in Iran. That said, it's been 28 days since Trump has sent his letter to Khamenei. Khamenei has said that Iran would indirect talks, but is essentially shunning overture by the Trump administration. To wit, the State Department spokesman said today the United States is determined to make sure Iran will not acquire a nuclear weapon. Trump has expressed willingness to pursue a deal with Iran, but if the Iranian regime does not want to talk about a deal, the president has other options, and those alternatives will be very bad for Iran, end quote. And to emphasize that point, the USS Carl Vinson and several other ships with the carrier strike group were spotted earlier today on satellite imagery transiting west through the Sulu Sea in the Philippines en route to the Middle East. And there's already one there. So some of the things that we look for and analysis is 2 U.S. aircraft carrier groups in one area at a given time, and the moving of huge amounts of cargo into the Middle East. Well, that's happening according to open source intelligence as well. In addition to that, the commander of U.S. Central Command, General Michael Kurilla, arrived in Israel earlier today, where he's expected to meet with senior defense and military officials regarding tensions with Iran. As well, the United States is very well prepared to meet Iranian threats, which were made late last week and over the weekend, that the Iranians would attack the base, the joint base, U.S.-UK base in Diego Garcia with long-range missiles. Here's a graphic to show you how far that those missiles could actually strike out. But here's the point. The time it would take to actually do this would allow them to be easily intercepted by U.S. forces. And so that really is kind of an empty threat. Now, according to a senior Iranian official who spoke recently with the Telegraph, top military commanders in Iran's armed forces and the IRGC are being urged to prepare for a preemptive strike, like I said. So this is being backed up. Now, this is a response to the arrival of 6 B-2 Spirit long-range strategic stealth bombers. One is still in Hawaii. And there was an earlier report about B-52 bombers being there. That is not true. That is not accurate. But there have been the moving of strategic fueling assets as well into the region. So it's very clear that this massive buildup is aimed at Iran. Now, the British PM's office said Trump has approved the UK's decision to hand over sovereignty of the Chagos Islands, including this base at Diego Garcia, to the China-allied country of Mauritius in exchange for a 99-year lease. I don't know how Trump would have approved that. I think there's going to be more information coming out about that soon, but that's a huge sea change if that's the case. I don't know why the U.S. would ever give up a base there, similar to the discussions over Panama. That said, Iran's nuclear program and how it works, here's some key sites. And what would happen if these sites are attacked? Well, a lot of their infrastructure is now deeply underground. And so what you would likely see is a quick rebound by Iran to then, within a week, potentially arm a nuclear warhead. Now, the technological capability of Iran to actually put a nuclear weapon on a warhead, that is a whole different discussion, and many people think they don't actually have that capability. But they clearly now have the capability to have enough enriched uranium to create a warhead. So, let's keep some reality in those discussions. Also, according to I-24 News, the new Syrian government is working to open back channels with Israel, aiming to pave the way for possible normalization. These efforts are being backed by Saudi Arabia. And lastly, regarding Syria, elements of the Turkish armed forces reportedly arrived today at the T4 Air Base and Palmyra military airfield in the Homs Governorate of central Syria, which have both been targeted recently by the Israeli Air Force. According to senior Turkish defense officials, S-400 and surface-to-air missile batteries will be deployed to the bases alongside long-range strike drones. Let me simplify this for you. You now have a NATO ally put in a place where Israel has been doing airstrikes. If Israel strikes a Turkish unit, would that activate Article 5 of the NATO treaty? Yeah, that's how crazy things are getting in the Middle East. When we come back from the break, more from the Russia front. And if you believe the United States is headed in the right direction, there's even more good news for you.
Attention business owners and entrepreneurs, Patriot TV is launching a brand new TV series showcasing American-made products, and your business could be featured. Whether you sell your products online on Etsy or Shopify and dream of reaching millions of viewers on smart TVs like Samsung, Sony, TCL, and LG, or apps like Roku, Android, and Apple TV, this is your chance. We're searching for U.S.-based businesses offering all types of products and services proudly made in the USA. If you've ever wanted to showcase your products on TV like QVC or the Home Shopping Network, now's your opportunity. Support our American economy. Grow your business and be seen by loyal Patriot viewers across the country. Know someone with a business or have a business yourself? Don't miss out. Contact us at supportingpatriots.com today. Be a guest on this new exciting TV series. Let's put your American-made products in the spotlight.
The new Supporting Patriots show on Patriot TV spotlights great Patriot-owned companies and introduces them to Patriot consumers, encouraging them to buy American-made. If you're an America-loving patriot that owns and operates his or her own business, and you have Made in America products or services, you're the perfect candidate to be interviewed on the Supporting Patriots show. If you'd like to be considered for an interview, email us at supportingpatriots@patriot.tv.
And now, the Russia front. So Russia has retaken control of the remaining parts of Kursk, while Ukraine now has captured a part of the Belgorod Oblast. And this chart, if we can bring this up, shows the changes that have been going on there. Again, this is just continued positioning for future negotiations, but it does look like Putin and Zelensky both now irritating President Trump and showing their true colors, that maybe they don't want peace. And maybe that's the whole point, like we've talked about here, that there are the Western globalists and the Eastern globalists, and they want this to be a trigger for World War III. Also, Poland becomes the first country to redirect money from its share of the EU's post-pandemic recovery funds towards defense spending, $7.5 billion, strengthening its defense against possible Russian aggression. Russia has now warned the United States that strikes on Iran's nuclear sites would have, quote, catastrophic consequences, end quote. I mean, we are on like the razor's edge right now of World War III. I don't think we all understand how close we are potentially. Now, we've talked about for years that it would be Russia, Ukraine first, then it would be Israel, Iran, and then it would be China, Taiwan, China, United States. Potentially. With these kind of threats, now not that the Russians follow through on a lot of their threats, but with these kind of threats, it just shows how the world is being realigned right now, and also how Europe really is behind the curve. We're going to get to that here in a second. Finland has withdrawn from the Ottawa Convention as well, following the lead of Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. The purpose of doing that is so that Finland can put landmines and defensive perimeter there on its border with Russia. Putin has now ordered the largest increase in conscription since the Ukraine war began, and it does look like Vladimir Putin is ramping up for more war. Meanwhile, J.D. Vance released a video from his visit to Greenland, saying Denmark hasn't done enough for Greenland. Quote, Trump leads America with peace through strength, and that means showing strength when you have to. It's time to bring security back to Greenland, end quote. Now, the practical application of this is the U.S. already has pretty much free reign there. We have military bases there, and there's a treaty in place. So I think this is emphasizing the need for Greenland, particularly if there is a world war. Also, politicians in Germany are calling on the government to bring back Germany's gold reserves from the USA or conduct more checks on the gold. Germany holds the world's second largest reserve and keeps 37% of it in its Federal Reserve. That's fascinating because countries now are bringing physical gold back to their storehouses. That is a key indicator economically that they are preparing for war. Geert Wilders put out a tweet saying, I am shocked by the incredible tough verdict against Marine Le Pen. Support and believe in her for the full 100% and trust she will win the appeal and become president of France. And many people are saying, if she is banned from the election like happened in Romania with another conservative candidate, this is going to become the norm in Europe. If that's the case, is there truly democracy? Now, we don't believe in democracy in the United States because, and yes, I said that because we were guaranteed a constitutional republic. We believe in a Republican form of government, totally different. And so what Europe's running into is the huge pitfall of democracy, and that is that 50.01% and vote away the rights of the minority. In a republic, that can't happen. That brings us now to the South America front. President Trump has once again been proven correct. Panama claimed that the Hong Kong-based company CK Hutchinson, which operates 2 of the ports at either end of the Panama Canal, was free from Chinese influence. But now China has asserted its control and moved to block the sale of these ports to the U.S. company, demonstrating it does in fact have control over them. Trump was right all along. Now, by the way, the last time the United States invaded Panama, it only took 3 days. It was 1989, just as a military historic fact. That brings us to the Canadian front. Growing number, and by the way, we said this, in the interior of Canada, they don't want to have anything to do with Trudeau and his communists. A growing number of Albertans are advocating for the Canadian province to secede and join the United States as the 51st state. So we may see that actually happen. Maybe we'll see Saskatchewan, part of British Columbia. People love freedom and they want to be a part of it. That brings us to the national front. The United States Army has released the identities of 3 out of the 4 soldiers with the 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team, 3rd Infantry Division from Fort Stewart, Georgia, that were killed last week when their M88A2 Hercules armored recovery vehicle sank in over 16 feet of swamp during a training exercise. Just absolutely tragic. And by the way, the Lithuanians have been fantastic over there, supporting the United States and really mourning with those who mourn. The body of the 4th soldier was found and recovered this morning and is expected to be identified soon after next of kin have been identified. I actually had in my unit I had several of these M88s. I don't think people understand how heavy these vehicles are, and that it can look like solid ground, but then give way in an instant. In fact, in one situation, there was a tank with mud up to the turret, and that was just a mud field. Can't imagine a swamp. As more exercise happen around the world, we're going to see things like this tragically happen. So our thoughts and prayers out to those families. The United States has ordered new icebreakers from Finland. Now, here's the thing. The U.S. ordered new icebreakers in 2019. The DoD spent $1.7 billion and have seen 0 ships. So now, Finland, Trump is going to spend $250 million each for actual ships, and we could have 6 ships for the amount we got 0. You see what's happening with the waste, fraud, and abuse. So the fact that Trump has figured out a shipbuilding place from an ally that could deliver quickly, it makes you wonder who is getting this money. And what's the procurement process and how could it be reformed? Elon Musk dropped a bombshell saying that arrest is imminent today in massive Social Security theft involving 400,000 stolen identities and financial fraud scheme. I just want to talk about this quickly. So if fraud is rooted out of Social Security, that entire pool now can go to Americans. And in fact, there could be a push for Americans to actually get more money from Social Security because that fraud is no longer eating away at the benefits in the whole pool. This has a huge effect on Americans. Great job. Federal judges are not supposed to be ordering universal injunctions. The DOJ has been trying to stop this for years. Quote, how can a federal judge issue an order that affects everybody else other than those in front of him or her? How is that possible? Well, that's a great question. Interestingly, in Washington State, in the first Washington State Constitution, it was specifically put in there. I think it was Article 5, Section 20, was put in there that a judge's decisions could only apply to the parties of the case before them. This prevented judicial tyranny. And now this is coming up again. Quote, I thought if you wanted to affect parties who aren't in court, you had to file a class action, end quote. Quote, I read Article 3, which defines judicial power. Where does it mention universal injunction, end quote. Quote, federal judges, you render a decision to a plaintiff or defendant, but you can't impact people outside of your courtroom other than through a class action, end quote. So, some very good discussions in Congress right now, and it's about time that they activate Article 3 and rein in this out of control federal judiciary. Also, Attorney General Ken Paxton down in Texas said, quote, in many major counties, Soros-backed district attorneys have endangered lives by refusing to prosecute criminals and allowing violent offenders to terrorize law-abiding Texans. He's now passed a rule for more reporting from local jurisdictions and local district attorneys. And I think they might have a different prosecuting attorney at the county level, whatever. This should be all over the United States. And the attempt to influence these prosecuting attorneys by George Soros needs to be exposed. Lastly, some good news. Some more good news, actually, because the stuff is being exposed and now it's being dealt with, like Social Security fraud, out of control judges. NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams thank President Trump and Elon Musk for their leadership, bringing them home safely to the International Space Station. I think we can all get behind that. And that is the briefing. Remember, the antidote to dependency and socialism is to be a God-fearing, self-reliant, freedom-loving American. And when we come back from the break, Mark Sutherland.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
What do a neurosurgeon, a country artist, and a television and radio host have in common? They all saw the writing on the wall. Big banks sharing your financial information with big government. Join them as owners in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank that protects your privacy, security, and liberty. Invest today at own.oldglorybank.com.
Well, our guest today is Mark Sutherland, and I before he comes on, I just want to say that there's a few things breaking news right now coming out of Europe. Germany is set to station 5,000 troops in Lithuania, the largest troop deployment since World War II, and also Trump sent a threat to Putin and to Zelensky. We made a deal, so to both of them. So check that out on the news feed. Wow. Anyway, things escalating. I mean, dramatically. We could see something by the end of this week. So just stay tuned and just keep on that intel thread. So Mark Sutherland, he's a writer, producer, filmmaker, just a general God-fearing freedom fighter around the world. 1afilmfest.com, AmericanGulagChronicles.com. Mark, it's great to have you back on Patriot Radio. A lot happening right now in the news.
Matt, it's great to be with you, and thank you for your incredible summation of what is going on around the world, because I think on this side of the pond, I don't think we're getting half of that. And as you know, the European Union, that's the last thing they want any of us to know, which is the truth or a different perspective than their eyes of what is actually going on. I just had a I'm waiting for confirmation of this, but I'll just start with this. I have a very dear friend of mine. We were having a conversation maybe a couple of hours ago before coming on, who said that that there is a discussion that whatever people think, is Ukraine right? Is Russia right? Let's just keep that aside right now in this next statement, is that anyone that is purporting to be pro-Russian in this country and put forward a view like that would have, from a journalistic point of view, maybe anyone, if they post a meme, would have to then say, disclosure, this is a Russian opinion or something like that. Now, I'm waiting for confirmation of that. But Matt, what it shows you, as you are fully aware, is the tyranny, is this funneling in to, we've completely wrecked the economy. We've completely wrecked the economy, and Germany is deindustrialization. So what we do, we have to have an excuse, which we've been building up since 2014, 15, Russia, and then let's just have a war with them. I find the whole subject, frankly, Matt, it's deeply complex, right? It is deeply complex. But wouldn't you thought that what would be a really, really good idea over the last sort of 4 years, or to actually de-escalate that, to seek peace, etc., wouldn't that be a really good idea instead of putting thousands and thousands of seeing dead soldiers on both sides? We seem to be, as the United Kingdom, the Prime Minister going, yes, well, we're sending the military. Oh dear, we don't really have enough people in our army. Let's send in the planes. No, we now have a real problem with a flyover zone because we're not going to get the intel from the Americans, etc. Matt, I don't want to go on in one sense about it, but I just feel that we are being run within this sort of, we have a prime minister that wants to get us back into the EU as soon as he can and has been working on that since 2016. I feel that we're just being run over here by utter lunatics in our country and across the whole European zone. I could be wrong, you know.
Well, I think that they want to use the guise of war to do exactly what you just said. We got to come together in the European Union again for the defense of Western civilization. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm seeing this. And I'm becoming firmer and firmer in my belief that you have the Eastern globalists, Russia and China, the Western globalists, that are just hell bent on starting a war. Now, what boggles my mind is that the UK, and that Trump would have agreed to this. I cannot believe this. He would agree to just give away Diego Garcia to a Chinese ally in Mauritius. That he would do this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's crazy to then say, right, we're going to negotiate with Mauritius. We're going to give these islands away. And what we're actually going to do is also pay them to take the islands away. We're going to give them billions and billions of dollars. And to be honest, Matt, this also raises some very, very serious questions all the way back to the Prime Minister David Cameron, all the way through to Theresa May, and with Boris Johnson, the concerns of, Huawei deals, etc. Yeah. I think it was then our defense secretary, I think, was eventually sacked. Just trying to remember his surname Wallace, who raised all the concerns about this. We seem to be sort of so infiltrated without people being they're not being very honest about this whatsoever. We have a huge problem along those lines. There are previous government ministers who have connections with China that has to be raised, that made money, etc. I'm stating facts that are concerning. And I think you are right. I had the privilege to sit down with my dear friend John Haller, who I know you've had on the show.
Yeah.
And we interviewed Trevor Loudon last week. And I think Trevor would be an interesting, you are fully aware of him, someone for you to recently talk to. It was a very, very fascinating discussion, if not extremely disturbing. And he raised that point that you have brilliantly said, that we've got the globalists on the west, the globalists on the east. We have people that are manipulating what they would call right-wing groups. Then there'd be the Chinese manipulating what people would call left-wing groups. So it's that whole discussion that you have had about them wanting a multipolar world. What does that actually mean, and how they want that chaos to then play out? And here we go again. It seems to be that Europe is that field yet again. And as you quite rightly raised the situation in Taiwan as well, and then of course Iran, etc., etc. You've laid that out. And we seem to be, without using that, without being hyperbole, as we accept it, as we're looking at it, it seems to be that we are on the edge of World War III. You are right. It looks like that. That's the last thing I want. And we have a heck of a lot to pray about at this particular moment. But this seems to be where we are at. And I feel that within this country, my own government, my own country, which I love deeply, we are being run by utter lunatics.
Well, and I have this, I think there's intentionality here, and just stepping back from this, we have proven, we have evidence. Nobody's refuted that there has been an infiltration of Chinese intelligence into the highest levels of the United States. Jihadis aside, Chinese elite capture at the highest levels of the U.S. government, of state governments. And now I'm seeing this cannot be really described as anything else but a setup, a weakening, an attempted weakening of the United States by and under the Biden administration prior to World War III. Now we have decisions being made that would only seem to benefit China by a couple people in government. I mean, just doesn't, it makes no sense. And then the other thing that I would look for are the flashpoints. Then the other thing I would look for is a consolidation of leaders. And I think we're seeing that in Europe. You have this banning of a candidate in Romania, not even convicted of anything. Now Marine Le Pen, and I'd like, before we got about 2 minutes before we got to go to the break, I would like you to comment on Marine Le Pen. I mean, where is their democracy in what's happening in France?
Well, there is no democracy. The democracy only benefits those people that are a left-wing persuasion, Matt. And also, if you go through the money and how that was spent, and if you look at other things that have been done, this is a natural process for a political party. But when it suits the opposition and the supposed left, and they're having a go at someone who is on the right, that is the tool that they are then using, and it is total and utter lawfare. The French political system in many ways is rather complex, but I will say this: Macron in many ways can't do anything. His hands are tied.
So is this the preparation? Every leader get in line, because we're going to World War, whether you like it or not, and we need all the European leaders, Eastern European, Western European leaders to be on the same sheet of music. That's what it really looks like. So when we come back from the break, a little more on what's happening in Europe, and also what can we expect here in the next 60 days in Israel?
American business owners, you understand the power of TV. If you have a product that you want to sell to millions of like-minded Americans who value quality, hard work, and supporting the red, white, and blue, Supporting Patriots is the perfect place. If you're ready to bring your product to a patriotic audience eager to buy American, then contact us today at supportingpatriots.com and secure your spot on Supporting Patriots. Let's build a stronger economy. When we buy American, we support our future.
I couldn't give anything a higher endorsement.
I would be remiss had I not include Cardio Miracle on my very short list of secrets.
It's the real deal. It's a real product. It's not another supplement.
I'm operating about 6 to 8 hours, and I've noticed that being on this Cardio Miracle has made a huge difference.
Since I started taking Cardio Miracle, about 8 months into it, the benefits have been fantastic.
You know, if I get hungry, then I just have a Cardio Miracle.
Not only is it safe, but it's necessary to take Cardio Miracle to stay well.
This let me sleep. It's showing up more energy, more get up and go, and it's all because of what this company does.
For me as a doctor, Cardio Miracle is a staple.
Cardio Miracle to me is hope in a glass.
To try Cardio Miracle for yourself and get a special fan discount, go to the host page right now and click the link for Cardio Miracle.
And we're back with our guest today, Mark Sutherland, 18filmfest.com, AmericanGulagChronicles.com as well. So, Mark, you're headed to Israel coming up soon. What can we expect here in the next 60 days? I mean, it really looks like there is a ramping up for some kind of attack on Iran. It looks like the Israelis are setting up multiple avenues of an attack as well. So, you know, I mean, we're just such on a knife's edge right now, and I know God is in control, but we need to pray for the peace of Jerusalem and the peace of Israel.
Absolutely. And the other thing that at times is rather difficult, because we hold this in our hands as well, is that we're looking at Bible prophecy unfolding, Matt, right? We don't know certain days of the hour, but we can look at the season, but we are looking at Bible prophecy unfold and how, and then we're looking at the geopolitics, of course, and trying to make sense of everything that is going on. And we've got to hold on to that. It's good, because in your report you were looking at, you know, mentioning that Israel talking to the new, ISIS-2 in a suit, and all of these kind of issues. We've got the issues with the Houthis and all the rest. But one thing that we need to be really praying about is what is actually happening inside Israeli politics itself. Understandably, with hostage families. Who am I to say? I am not in that situation. I have complete empathy in this regard when they're saying we want our family members that have been kidnapped to come back, and also the bodies of people that have been kidnapped to come back. I get that, and I'm not underplaying that. Now, also at the same time, what is being shown is the left-wing judges. Is the left-wing orientated judges and their judicial system within Israel as well, who have then, you look at the fact that Bibi says, I want to fire the leader of the Shin Bet, and the judges turn around and say, no, you can't. And as you quite rightly say, we are a democracy, which is mob rule. And just to remind people that in the last election in this country, 40% people didn't bother. So if you then refer that to Israel, your system allows a new presidential administration to come in and completely wipe clean and put new appointments that are backing that administration all over the place. Or that is the ideal. Within Israel, my understanding is that's not like that. And that is why Bibi wanted to put through those judicial changes, and then there was all those protests in 2022. That's right. This is profoundly serious. Remember, this is also, whether you like him or not, I'm not asking for that conversation. He is the Prime Minister of Israel, but it's also the fact that they're wanting him to put him on trial. Suddenly they're raising issues with there may be some scandal involved with Qatar and all of this. It goes on and on and on. And may I just remind people that he is trying to lead his country during a war that has gone on since the 7th of October, 2023. Right. And you've got all this left, the left and their ideology, the whole people that come from the Oslo Agreement, mentality and all the rest. And it maybe it's very easy for me to say, but we have been looking at that, a load of this with 2020 sort of hindsight. And there are many, many people in Israel that are really, really catching up with that. They know, no, we cannot have a two-state solution. In fact, we just tried that in Gaza. That's why we're in the mess that we are there. So with all the other things that are surrounding, as you know, they've gone into Gaza. There's been fresh attacks on Hezbollah in the Lebanon, etc. You're right. The discussion in regard to the Syria, the concerns about how the Houthis can send missiles in and working hard to reach. But something to really pray about is the actual internal aspects that are going on in Israel. My own particular impression is there has been such unity during this war. I mean, it's incredible to see how people function, etc. And also, as you have quite rightly pointed out, the Biden administration, and Biden was sort of hugging Netanyahu above the table while kicking him in the shins underneath the table. He made a reference to that, I think, a number of days ago. And also with all the weapons that were delayed, the machinery and the bulldozing, etc., that have been delayed. And now Trump's saying, we've got to give all this to you. So from a prayerful point of view, it's praying for the dynamics that are unfolding inside the country. And I'll just finally end by saying this. Hamas made a remark, which in many ways is quite shocking, when they turned around and said, well, we attacked because we saw that what was happening inside the country and the fact that you were fighting yourselves. So we took this as an opportunity to attack.
Mark, I want to thank you for being on our 700th episode of Patriot Radio, kind of a special milestone. So I'm glad it was you that was on here as one of our guests. And just in the last couple of minutes, what do you think people can do right now? I know prayer is a piece of this, but some of this, especially with the idea that we're kind of heading headlong toward a world war, I think can be overwhelming for certain folks. But what do you think that the average person can do in England, in free Europe, and the United States?
What a question. And also because I, like others, have children of a certain fighting age. I'll just put that out as well. Yeah. That's the last thing I want anyone's children to be involved, frankly. We need to be praying, and if I'm also addressing myself in this, please hear me loudly. We need to be praying. We need to be reading our Bibles, and because there is nothing else that we get on one level that we can do to get through this, because we have to offer hope to people around us that are going to say, what is going on here? Because it is about preaching the gospel. And I do believe that we are in the last days. I do believe that. However, with the timescales of that, I don't know right now, because there are Bible prophecy that's playing out. And for some people, that may seem very uncomfortable. Matt, we've just got to encourage each other by having shows like yourself, by trying to inform people. We can't sort of sugarcoat this, my friend. We must not sugarcoat this at all, because I believe that one thing our country is facing is economic collapse. We are bankrupt, and of course a war would begin to hide all that along with the rest of Europe. We know there are playbooks on these kind of things, and the fact that we've gone green energy and complete madness over here. I'm not comfortable in saying some of that, but you asked me a very straight question, and frankly, that is all I feel I can say on it. I don't have an answer outside what Scripture lays out. I really don't. I'm not going to have an outer Bible experience and say, oh, everything's going to be fine. People say we've been here on the First World War, the Second World War, we got through it. Well, this feels very, very different And as you were talking about at the beginning of the show, the whole thing of robotics and AI, this feels very, very different. And the other thing I would say, and I'm very grateful to be here, Matt, and have this conversation and say to people in America, please be praying for those of us in the UK. Please don't forget us. We're not all left-wing idiots, but also we need to be praying for you as well, and to be mindful of this. That just because we have certain leaders in place doesn't mean that we can all sit back, take our foot off the gas and think that everything is fine, because I'm going to be honest and say it's not.
It's not. Mark Sutherland, God bless you. Thank you so much for joining me on Patriot Radio. Really appreciate you, my friend. Stay safe, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Keep up the fight.
And you. Take care.
Mark Sutherland, 1AFilmFest.com, AmericanGulagChronicles.com. Check those places out. He's done a lot to inform us and to keep us focused as well. So what can you do? Pray and read the Word. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem and the peace of the United States. I'm telling you, you can feel it in the air right now that we are on the cusp of some kind of war, some kind of action happening. And that brings us to some breaking news. Coming from Gateway Pundit, Elon Musk, quote, I hope they see this segment. Elon Musk reveals he and his team with Donald Trump have identified the, quote, generals orchestrating the violent Tesla attacks, end quote. I don't think you understand maybe what the implication of that is. That means that they have identified the generals in some of the Marxist movement here in the United States. So we're going to stay tuned to that. It is a big deal. Also, we're going to talk about this on a separate show. I've actually done a couple shows on this, but the files that were revealed in Argentina regarding Adolf Hitler and the Nazis living in Argentina after World War II are bombshells, including some pretty, I would say pretty challenging stuff. That Hitler survived, hid in Colombia, and then was in Argentina. Now, we've profiled the CIA document that was a report of Hitler in Colombia, 1954-55, but there's more that has come out on this. And as it comes out, and as we have the primary source documents, we're going to do a show on this as well coming up. Wild stuff. Things may not be the way we actually think they were and the way they are today. So, primary source documents, remember that, and let's start with the primary source document of the Word of God. Read it with your family tonight. Pray with your family tonight, especially for peace. This is Matt Shea. Thank you for joining me on Patriot Radio. May God bless all of you. He is making this generation the greatest one. The awakening is here, so keep up the fight.